Josh Naylor is officially a Seattle Mariner for at least the next 5 years. They have put pen to paper, and now we have the full details of Josh Naylor's contract as it came out. 5 years, $92.5 million. That's an average of 18.5 on an annual basis. And in this video, we're going to break down the full details of Josh Naylor's contract, what this might look like for the Mariners 2026 projected payroll. We're going to look at the Mariners that are going to be under contract for the foreseeable future. We're going to look at the 2028 payroll because in 2028, now with the guys that the Mariners have under contract, which is 5 players, they're going to have five players totaling about $100 million. So we'll take a look at that. We'll then also look at Josh Naylor's contract among other Major League Baseball first basemen and how that ranks. And then we'll take a look at the remaining free agents and who the Mariners might be able to target, who might be within their price range. And as you can see from that image, Jeff Passan tweeted stating that Josh Naylor's 5-year contract has a full no trade clause and does not have any deferrals. The Mariners are certainly not the Dodgers. So as we know, Josh's contract is a 5-year contract for $92.5 million. That's an average annual salary of $18.5 million. And that is what is going to be factored into the luxury tax. A player's hit to the luxury tax is the average of the total contract over the time of years. Doesn't matter how the payroll is structured. As you can see here, Josh Naylor is actually going to be making a base salary of just $10 million, whereas of course the average is 18.5 over the 5 years. He also is receiving a $6.5 million signing bonus, which it looks like is all coming in the first year. However, at least SpotTrack, or however you say that website, they have it broken down so that he is receiving $1.3 million each of those 5 years from the signing bonus. So I'm not 100% sure if the signing bonus is like $1.3 million at the start of every year, or if he actually does receive $6.5 million right now and it's taken care of ahead of time. But then Josh Naylor is under contract through the 2030 season. He becomes a free agent in 2031. And at the time of signing, he has 6.127 total years of service time. As you can see here, his base salary in 2026 will be $10 million, and it will then increase to 16, 18, 20, and then $22 million for his final season. Gives the Mariners a little bit more flexibility in the short term, but then as we'll get into in a few slides here, it does also start to add up as we get throughout the years. And a big reason why Josh Naylor could command a 5-year deal approaching $100 million is that the Mariners are essentially signing him completely through his prime, through his age 33 season. As he said in his presser, it's like he could chase the money and chase just the biggest number, or he can choose to stay in a spot in Seattle that he played with. He got to experience the fans, the stadium environment. He was talking that the clubhouse in there, they are having tears of joy, that it's like it's sad to leave in the offseason, that he wishes spring training was tomorrow. You have to think, it's like, okay, how much money does someone actually need? If you're getting a contract approaching $100 million, whether you're getting paid $92 million or you're able to wait out an extra 3 months and go through the stress of not knowing where you're going to be signing, and then you're able to get another $8 million in total to totaling $100 million, was that really worth it? And with Naylor and his wife having their first kid just a couple months ago, they love the city, they love the environment, they're ready to put their roots down, and they're going to be in Seattle for the next 5 years. Now, looking at the contract notes, it does state that there is a full no trade clause for the entire 5 seasons. It does state there is a signing bonus of $6.5 million. Again, I need a little clarity on if it's completely upfront or if it is averaged out. And then the award bonuses are all pretty typical. It's MVP, you're getting an extra 150 grand. World Series MVP, you're getting 100 grand. LCS MVP, 50K. Silver Slugger or a Gold Glove, you're getting 50K. And then to make the All-Star team, an extra 50K. And Josh, if you happen to be watching this video, I'm actually a mortgage lender full-time. If you're looking to buy some real estate around the Seattle area, hit me up. You can visit lenderconnorwebb.com to get in touch or to slide in my DMs. I think it would be pretty easy to get you qualified for a mortgage. And if there's any other players out there watching this video that are looking to buy a second home in spring training, it's my goal to assist as many sports fans and athletes get into the home of their dreams. So make sure to reach out. Interest rates have been on the decline. We're in a great market right now for buyers specifically. And again, visit Lender Connor Webb to reach out and connect. And shout out to Baseballism. This is personally my favorite product that they've had so far. This is the shutout retro windbreaker for the Seattle Mariners. They also have another 4 or 5 teams that they have this for. It's ultra rain resistant, perfect for the Pacific Northwest. They're going to have some ridiculous sales coming up for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It should be like 25% off. But if you're outside of that, use code CouchGM-15 to save 15% off your purchase. And again, yeah, even if you're not a Mariners fan, they have the Braves, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants on top of the Mariners. That's enough self-promotion for one video. So getting back into it, here is where Josh Naylor was slotted. This is on SpotTrack. It was estimated that his contract would be somewhere in the $15 million range. I think that was low. Of course, he's a first baseman, so they tend to be heavily discounted. They don't seem to have much value on the open market, but Josh Naylor, with what he brings, is worth every penny of this contract. Of course, there's Pete Alonso up there, who's expected to get around $30 million, but we saw him hold out, and he ended up having to go with a short-term contract. And then where does Josh slot out in the Mariners 2026 payroll? Well, this is sorted by payroll salary, and Josh is currently 7th on the team in payroll for 2026, and this is accounting for $11.3 million. This is including that adjusted $1.3 million signing bonus. Luis Castillo is the highest paid player on the team this year, which is why he's drawing a little trade speculation among some fans. Julio Rodriguez is second overall. Randy is expected to be paid around $16 million in arbitration this year. Cal Raleigh is then fourth. JP Crawford in the final year of his contract, making $12 million. And then Logan Gilbert is expected to make around $11.5 million in arbitration this year. And that gets us to the current expected opening day payroll for the Mariners, which via this website is at $148 million. Of course, this is accounting for 11.3 for Josh instead of the supposed $10 million. That's going to be his actual payroll expense. You'll also want to subtract out Trent Thornton's $3 million. He hasn't been DFA'd or non-tendered a contract yet, but that's likely where they're going to head. So if you were to subtract, $4 million from this number, that gets us to about $144 million as current payroll. And with their expected opening day payroll to be about $166, that should give them about $20 to $22 million, $25 million to still spend on free agents or other moves this offseason. And then looking forward to the guaranteed contracts for the Mariners, you have Julio Rodriguez, who is going to be a free agent and potentially in 2035 at the very earliest. You have Josh Naylor now, who is tied with Cal Raleigh. Both of them are locked down through the 2030 season. You then have Luis Castillo and Andres Munoz, who have various options, which take them through the 2028 season. Victor Robles is currently locked down through the 2027 season, and then JP Crawford is set to become a free agent after this season. So these are the total guaranteed contracts for 2026, but then you push it out a little further. Once we get to 2028, that's where it gets a bit interesting because among these 5 guys, there is a total expected payroll of $99 million. We're talking Luis Castillo, who's set to make 25. You have Cal Raleigh at that point, who's making 24.6. Julio Rodriguez is making 20.1. Josh Naylor at that point, his salary is up to 19.3. And then Andres Munoz with his final club option is set to be around $10 million. And of course, with their opening day payroll for 2026 expected to be $166 million, if this were the case, looking down to 2028, you can expect that there's going to be a good amount of rookie contracts on the books, or at least, Luis Castillo might be gone at this point because Andres Munoz's club option, they will be picking up, and these guys are guarantees. And so you need to expect ownership for the Mariners to push the overall payroll closer to $200 million by 2028. Otherwise, Luis Castillo's gone. Now, comparing Josh Naylor's contract to the rest of the Major League Baseball's first baseman, his overall contract, when looking at total value, is now ranks 5th among all first basemen. Of course, Vladdy signed that $500 million extension this past year. Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies for $330, initially as an outfielder, but was transitioned to first base. Matt Olson's contract is at $168 million. Freddie Freeman with the Dodgers at $162. And then you have Josh Naylor at 5th among first basemen in all of Major League Baseball. Then looking a little further down the road, this is in 2027 among MLB first basemen just on an annual basis. He's at $16 million. Of course, his contract will keep going up in 28 and 29 and 30. And as you might already know, this is the most lucrative free agent hitter contract that the Dipoto front office has signed. The record prior to this was Mitch Garver's 2-year, $24 million contract. Of course, this blows it out of the water. And Dipoto took over in 2015, so this is now his 11th offseason, and he has now signed his first hitter past 2 years guaranteed. The only free agent guaranteed contract beyond 3 years that this front office had signed was Robbie Ray to that 5-year, $150 million deal. And again, here are the hitter free agent contracts that have been signed. We're talking 2 years for Mitch Garver, 1 year for AJ Pollock, 1 year for Tim Beckham, 1 year for Donovan Solano. I mean, they just don't sign hitters. Of course, we know their philosophy is draft, develop, trade more than anything, and they hardly touch the free agent market outside of relief pitchers. And now looking at the remaining free agents out there on the market, this is, of course, is sorted by market value on an annual basis. You have a couple guys that were on the Mariners this last year in Eugenio Suarez and Jorge Polanco. They both are valued at $14 to $15 million per year. Likely they only get one of them. It sounds like they're probably going to be favoring Jorge Polanco in more of a DH role. I don't think that they bring Eugenio Suarez back unless it's on a 1-year contract. Jorge Polanco is probably going to ask for 2 years. And speculation is something like the Mitch Garver contract where they convince him to come back 2 years, $24 million. Jorge Polanco, it sounds like, likes the security of knowing where he's at. He doesn't like the change. So he might be willing to take something a little under market value to stay with the Mariners in a place to where he excelled in last year. Of course, it would be nice if they went after someone like Bo Bichette, who's not even 28 years old, but that's going to cost $23 million. I know you guys hate it when I say that going after Kyle Schwarber would be fun. I understand that paying a full-time DH isn't necessarily the greatest thing, but if you can add Kyle Schwarber to the top of your lineup, I would. For me, a couple names to look at are also Willie Castro and Luis Rengifo. I know that they don't have crazy numbers, but I've always been somewhat of a fan with them. Willie Castro with the Twins, Luis Rengifo with the Angels. But in order for Seattle to realistically bring those guys in, they would have to go below market value as well. So the Mariners signed Josh Naylor to a 5-year, $92.5 million contract, an average of 18.5. This guarantees that Naylor, Cal, and Julio are all going to be in your lineup through the 2030 season. He's signed through his prime, through his age 33 season. And this number off is here. This gets you now to about like 144, as I mentioned before. So they have a bit of wiggle room to still go out and do stuff. And this next slide is more so talking about Josh Naylor actually came to the Mariners with a full report talking through their farm system, guys that they like, who that he's going to be playing with for the next 5+ years. I imagine that he talked about Ben Williamson a bit, obviously Colt Emerson, the Mariners' top prospect, Cole Young at second base. He's going to be catching balls that are hit to these three guys over the next 5 years. So I'm curious to hear some insight on who he talked about specifically, who he brought up, who he was excited about. But that certainly has to play a factor into why he resigned here, because it's not just what they did this past year. It's about where they're heading with one of the top farm systems, if not the top farm system in all of baseball. They are just getting started this offseason, and they are going to be in contention every year the next 5+ years for that AL pennant. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this Josh Naylor signing, this overall contract structure, what you think. Let me know what you think about that 2028 season when those 5 guys are totaling $100 million in payroll. And let me know in the comments if there's someone that's under the radar you think the Mariners should go after this offseason. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Couch GM for all things Seattle Mariners. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.